Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 192 of the Fraternity Foodie podcast. I am your host, Mike Eilon, CEO of Greek University. I am a speaker and a two-time author. Our second book, From Letters to Leaders, Redefining New Member Education and Leveraging Belonging to Eliminate Hazing, is available now. It just came out a month ago, so pick that up on Amazon today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring fraternity and sorority leaders together. Fun fact, I met our next guest in Dallas, Texas earlier this month while we were both exhibitors for the AFA annual meeting, which is the Association of Fraternity and Sorority Advisors. This is a conference where we get to interact with the 1,300 different college campuses out there that have a fraternity and sorority community. And I really love the great setup of the conference this year, where all the discussions about how we can help were happening right in the middle of all the ed sessions. So I think the folks at AFA really did a wonderful job. So congratulations to their team on a great experience as we continue to emerge from this pandemic and start to see people in person again. It was just great to connect with people again, I think, more than anything. So that was really fantastic. Cheers to all of those folks. Our next guest is Brian Halderman, someone who is passionate about building community, connecting people to help each other solve problems, and supporting systems, institutions, and organizations to advance the common good. This passion manifests through his work with GivePulse, Inc., which is a civic tech firm that believes in the power of people and human ingenuity to build bridges, to mend wounds, and to advance society to new heights. Brian holds a deep commitment to education, and he values his experience in working in and for institutions of higher education. In particular, his belief that experiential education is critical for a student to be prepared and successful in society and the workplace. He remains committed to a role in the classroom, to share life experiences, and to empower young minds to pursue avenues of justice and reconciliation. I absolutely love it. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Appreciate the invitation.
Of course, it's my pleasure. I think the college students are absolutely going to love this discussion because what it is that you do, what it is that GivePulse does, really resonates with Gen Z in terms of making this world a better place. But I think it's important for our listeners to know a little bit of background on you, because I think that's really fascinating too. You decided on the University of Dayton for your undergraduate experience. So I'm wondering, why Dayton?
Well, like most students, I did a campus visit there. I guess it was my junior year of high school. And there was just something about it. You know, I fell in love with the sense of community and family spirit on the campus that I walked away there saying to my parents, like, this is it, this is the place, right? And so they were really supportive in that. It was also far enough away from the parents, but close enough I could get home in an hour when I needed to do laundry or needed a home cooked meal. So it was really a great experience. And just for the record, for the listeners, the Flyers were going to win the NCAA March Madness in 2020. So it was our year, but COVID got in the way.
I absolutely love it. And I love that story about Dayton. I hear so many of those. It just felt right, you know, and people just know when you step foot on campus. So good for you for going to check it out. Something that I didn't even do. I just went to the University of Buffalo because my best friend was already going there and having a good time. So good for you. You at least went to go check it out. You're a smart man, much smarter than I am, clearly, Brian. I love it. And you also joined Alpha Phi Omega, which is the co-ed service fraternity. So I'm wondering, why APO? Why was that the right choice for you? And how does that experience compare to some of the social fraternities that you see on typical college campuses?
Yeah, so I'm an Eagle Scout and was involved in Boy Scouts really up through my college years. And so it was kind of a natural fit to be engaged with Alpha Phi Omega. They have kind of a affiliation or a working collaboration with the Boy Scouts over the years. And so that was kind of how I got introduced to APO, and just really, fell in love with all of the activities and service opportunities they were offering to students. And so I got involved and became an officer and, did a lot of different things over the years as a student there. What I would say, I guess, about the differences between kind of what Alpha Phi Omega was doing and sort of social fraternities and sororities on campus, I would say there was a stronger emphasis of our activities being service focused, I think, and really more community engagement kinds of activities. We certainly had social opportunities. They hosted dances, which were great. And, those were good ways to meet people and be engaged, very similar to what might the experience be in a social fraternity. But I would say probably the main difference was just a stronger emphasis on really the community engagement and service activity that we were about.
Yeah, I really love that. I think that really gets at the root of, why fraternities were formed in, let's say, the mid to late 1800s. It really was, a place of communal learning. And it was a place for, certainly service and other things as the years went on. But I think the social piece came on, much later in the equation. So I think it really is at the root of fraternity. And I also think it resonates with Gen Z. So kudos to APO, because I think it does really resonate. You've also been the university minister for social justice and then an adjunct professor at St. Mary's University. And that's where you seem to really be infusing theological reflection and social analysis into service learning experiences of students. So why is that theological reflection and social analysis so important for students?
Yeah, I think it's really tied to this idea that critical thinking and empathy are just such important skills in the workplace today. So as students are graduating and looking for positions out there, so many of folks are really saying, companies that are interviewing potential workers, can they really critically think? Do they empathize with needs? And so theological reflection and social analysis helps students think more deeply about those social inequities they might be encountering in the community, and also really cultivates empathy and compassion in individuals. And so, it's one thing, I think, to serve soup at a soup kitchen. It's a whole nother thing to ask, why are folks homeless and how do we get at those root causes of these sort of social issues, right? So that social analysis is like digging deeper. On theological reflection, on the other hand, is really like, how do I bring my faith to bear in this type of engagement? So how does my faith help me be more empathetic, be more compassionate toward the others? And so no matter what your faith tradition, if you're Christian or Jewish or Muslim, right, all the major religions have some form of the golden rule, right? Like, do unto others as you wish to have be done unto you. And so I think that's really was my interest in helping students to connect with that, no matter what their faith tradition is, right? To really look more deeper at issues rather than just like serving food to the homeless, right? But why are we doing this, and why is it important that we're doing it?
Yeah, that's so important. And I hope that that's not lost on our listeners, because we really need to get back to building empathy more than anything on college campuses. That's something that, I look at some of the headlines out there, whether it be Timothy Piazza at Penn State or, whatever, you look at those headlines and you just think to yourself, or at least I do, where is the empathy? Where is the students just caring for other students? Basic humanity. Some of that stuff is just missing to me when I read some of these articles. And I hope we can get back to that. I hope that some of that theological reflection and social analysis really sticks. And there are people like you on college campuses all across the country to spread that word. Yeah, so that's really important. Now, in 2014, you became the director of the Center for Civic Engagement at the University of Texas at San Antonio, certainly one of my favorite cities out there. How do you build a civic engagement culture at a university?
A great question, challenging one. I think the immediate response that comes to mind is collaboration, right? So often in campuses, unfortunately, offices and programs and departments operate in silos, right? They do their thing, but I think for cultivating a culture of civic engagement is collaborating across the campus, collaborating with organizations in the community. And so I actually was the founding director of that center. So when we established the center, we looked to how do we support and bolster existing programs and initiatives and organizations that are already doing the work. They were already doing the work. They just needed more institutional support and sort of guidance. And so the example that I like to give is we worked with a student coalition of student organizations. I believe there were some Greek organizations involved in it as well that were doing voter registration and kind of get out the vote initiatives. And so we helped them. We just supported them. We helped promote their efforts. We got university communications to help. And so what it really resulted in was more exposure for their efforts and really got more students registered and more students voting. And so we were looking at ways to really just collaborate more broadly among campus, organizers, but also with the broader community and organizations that were doing similar work.
That collaboration is so important. I mean, those skills translate in the real world as well, because there's no way you can build, and you know this, I mean, a multi-million-dollar company by yourself. I mean, you have to learn how to delegate, how to collaborate, and work with teams in order to achieve things that we on our own can't possibly do. We need the collective. It's got to be a 1 + 1 = 3 type of scenario. And I think that's where a lot of companies are heading. So this is a really important skill. I hope that students will pay attention to that as well. Now, since 2017, you've been the Director of Community Engagement and Success at GivePulse. So tell our audience, what is GivePulse and how can it help our fraternities and sororities?
Sure, I'd be delighted to. So GivePulse is a cloud-based platform for community engagement. We support campuses and student organizations and social impact orgs and United Ways and companies that are doing this work. So we work with a variety of organizations in the community that are doing community engagement activities and interested in collaborating and connecting with those opportunities, right? And so we provide a platform where direct service opportunities or donation drives or fundraisers can be posted and listed. Users can connect with those and then be recording those outcomes and really tracking those as groups or organizations that might have a presence on the platform. So a Greek organization, for example, could have a group on GivePulse. They could be having their users registering and signing up for these opportunities and then tracking those direct service hours or funds that they might be raising for their philanthropy or whatever it might be within the system. So that's become a really helpful thing in which we're providing and supporting not only campuses, but really communities across the United States, a place to kind of have that exchange.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned some of the opportunities that are posted on your platform. What are some of the other features that I could find on GivePulse?
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier in my response, we have a group management aspect. So organizations can manage rosters and post and list opportunities that are just directed at their members. We have a posting and listing opportunity, way to post and list service opportunities or other types of events like fundraisers. These fundraisers could be peer-to-peer or crowdfunding, sort of competitive types of opportunities. Donation drives is a big one too, in terms of helping organizations post things like canned food drives or clothing drives or Christmas gift types of things. That's a big thing at this time of year. So that's one. The ability for the individual user on the system to record their service hours or other outcomes, to reflect on their experiences. That's a big thing. As we were talking earlier about social analysis, we give the opportunity for groups or organizers that are creating these opportunities to customize reflection questions to really help people think deeply about their engagement. And then the individual user themselves has a profile on the system and they can view all of their history of engagement. They can pull transcripts if needed, and they can continue to use GivePulse beyond their time, with a student organization or on a campus. So they could use it, as they go on in life and want to continue to connect and track their outcome. And then of course, on the administrative side, we're providing ways for organizers, group leaders to pull reports of hours of their student organizations, either be individual or overall of the organization, and really giving a good way for them to report and see what's their level of impact in the community.
Man, I wish I had this product back in 2012. At that time, I was the executive director of my fraternity, and we had 2 national philanthropies that we were running, and we had 120 chapters. And just keeping track of all of this from the headquarters side, I'm telling you, is next to impossible. I mean, it was just too big a job for us. So if I had something in 2012 like GivePulse, it would have made it really helpful for me to try to run and keep statistics and data on everything that's happening to position the fraternity and say, look at all the good that we're doing. Like, I instinctively knew that our chapters were doing good, but it's very hard to quantify that if you don't have a system like a GivePulse.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So do you have any success stories maybe that you can share from GivePulse? I mean, I'm sure some
Yeah.
have come up since 2017.
Yeah, for sure. So we've been working with, we're now over 200 campuses using the product across North America, really. And one example that I'll point to is Ball State University in Muncie. Their Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life has been effectively encouraging their chapters to utilize GivePulse to track their service outcomes. And so student organizers or partners that they're collaborating with are posting and listing these needs. Students are registering, they're tracking outcomes. And so since 2018, I just looked it up before our interview today. Since 2018, they've recorded over 11,000 impacts. So these are individual touch points with the community, and that's resulted in over 40,000 service hours. So by having a system like GivePulse, as you said, they're able to really report this out. And then we can dig deeper into that and look like, who are the top student, this top organizations we're working with? What's the type of social causes that we're impacting, right? And so they're supporting a variety of school-based programs, their local Boys and Girls Club, their animal shelter, Adopt a Highway program. So they're doing some great stuff that they're able to report on now as a result of having a space to facilitate this.
See, this is why I love your product. Fraternities and sororities are great, amazing organizations that have been here for a very long time, and they're going to be around another century. I really believe that in my heart. But we don't do a good job of telling our story. And so I think your product, GivePulse, really helps fraternities and sororities to tell their story in their community and how they're making an impact. I mean, obviously, we can pull, let's say GPA information and say affiliated members score higher GPAs than unaffiliated members. We can say that the 4-year graduation rate is better for affiliated members. We can say that the job placement rate is higher for affiliated members. But in terms of the impact in our community and how many touch points we have in our community, I mean, that's something that, I don't know a lot of people are tracking. So good on Ball State for tracking all of that, but then getting that information out as well and making sure people know that information is so critical. And then the local community in Muncie can really see how the fraternity and sorority community helps, as opposed to all the negative stereotypes that one might see in a college town, which is that the fraternities and sororities just leave a whole bunch of empty beer cans behind and it's polluting our community, right? So it's like there is another side to it, but we're not very good at telling that story. And so, I mean, if I was going to design the tagline for GivePulse, I mean, it's really telling the story of fraternity and sorority, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. We actually talk a lot about our product as helping you tell the story. Yeah, building community engagement for sure.
That's it. I mean, that is it. That's what resonates with me. So that's really great. Now, if there are fraternity and sorority members that are out there, they want to do good. I know they want to do good. It's certainly part of the commitment they made to their fraternities and sororities at the altar. What is the best way for these students who are listening now to find volunteer opportunities locally?
Yeah, so they just need to visit our site, givepulse.com, and they're able to search once they get on that landing page by their local zip code for opportunities that are happening in their area. They also can sign up for free and create a user account. And we even have a free basic group that chapters could create, regardless if their campus is using GivePulse or not. And they can start using the product today to really, support the basics of what they need. And a lot of the opportunities that are on there, obviously regionally, are going to depend on how active folks are regionally in the communities, but we're always happy to help. So they can always reach out and say, hey, we'd like to see more opportunities. How do we get that? And we work with them to identify maybe some partners they could work with and organizations that they could connect with. But I think they'll find a lot of opportunities all over the US, as they just go on there and then search. If they're looking to connect, if they discover their campus is using GivePulse, then I would recommend maybe connecting with their Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life or student activities and get a group set up within the institutional hierarchy or structure on the platform. That'll help the campus track their engagement a little bit better rather than it being an independent group.
That's a great service that you're providing. And you're talking about engagement. And so I want to talk about that for a minute. Campus engagement is sometimes difficult when we're talking about civic engagement. So how can our fraternities and sororities get more engagement from other students at some of their events that they're putting on?
Yeah, so by nature, our product really helps facilitate sharing events and opportunities to the larger campus community or even to the general public.
Mhm.
And so this would allow fraternities and sororities to promote and amplify offerings that they have to encourage students to be involved with service or philanthropic events that they might be hosting. So I would encourage them to just log on and check it out because it's going to give them an opportunity to really share these opportunities more broadly.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. I think that's one of the number one complaints that I get when I'm talking to students on college campuses is they'll say like, nobody attends our events. We try to do good, but nobody attends. And sometimes it's just hard to communicate even within the fraternity and sorority community. Sometimes
Yep.
they don't even talk to each other. And I'm like, how do you not talk to this person? Like, you know that they're the president of another organization in your council, and they're not even
Right.
talking. And then asking them to talk to somebody in another council sometimes is like sending a man to the moon. I mean, it's like, what? And so to me, it's so basic. Like, this network is so critical. You have to get to know the leaders in these organizations, in your council, outside of your council, and other councils, other student leaders and student government and other things to help get that message out. I mean, it's great that GivePulse has that ability to share some of those events and get campus participation and community participation outside of the campus. But I mean, that is just such a great tool to use. And it's going to really help you later on by developing that network and developing those relationships. You're going to need those relationships later. So get to know people, please, on your campus, please, please. So
Great advice.
important. So important. All right. So we do love good food here at the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm not shy about saying that. And I love San Antonio. I love the Riverwalk. I mean, it's one of the coolest places around. But what's your favorite restaurant in San Antonio these days?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I have so many that I enjoy checking out. I don't know if you know, but we have a branch campus of the Culinary Institute of America in GivePulse or in GivePulse in San Antonio, and they're graduating great chefs who are sticking around and opening restaurants. So we got a plethora of great restaurants. But I think I'll choose a Tex-Mex favorite of mine since it's San Antonio, right?
Right.
And that restaurant's called La Fonda on Main. It's been in the community a long time. The restaurant owner is very philanthropic in the community. And it's not really on the tourist radar, which is one of the things I like about it. It's not on the Riverwalk. It's not downtown. It's kind of in a little neighborhood north of downtown. But it's got wonderful atmosphere, a great outdoor patio, and of course, really good margaritas. So it's one of my go-tos.
I love it. I love it. I live in Nashville, so I look at things the same way that you do, which is how can I get away from the tourists? Are there any restaurants that the tourists don't know about? Because that's where I
Yeah.
want to go.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. So if our listeners want to get more information on GivePulse for their national fraternity or sorority, or maybe for their college campus, how can they best contact you and get set up with GivePulse?
Yeah, of course, I would encourage them to visit givepulse.com. They can learn a little bit more about us and check out the site themselves. But they can reach me directly via email at Brian, Brian, at givepulse.com.
That sounds wonderful. Listen, it was a pleasure meeting you out in Dallas, Texas. I really believe in what it is that you're doing. So I'm super happy that this is an option for the fraternity and sorority leaders that are listening to us right now. So to all of our listeners, if you like GivePulse, if you like what Brian had to say, if you need a tool to help you to aggregate all of this data, find opportunities, this is for you. Make sure that you share it with other fraternity and sorority leaders. Make sure you share it with your Greek advisor. Make sure you share it with your headquarters. Make sure you share it with your council exec board, so that way they know that this is an option. There's so many ways to use this product, and so I'm just so grateful that Brian, you were able to spend a little bit of time with us today to tell us more about it, because again, you're helping us to tell the story of fraternity and sorority, and anybody who has a solution to help us do that, I am all ears, because we are just not good at it.
Great, Michael. Thank you so much for the opportunity to join you today and to share a little bit about what we're doing to make the world a better place.
Yeah, that's all we want at the end of the day. So kudos to you and the rest of the team. And I'm looking forward to seeing you real soon. Thanks so much for your time, Brian.
Great. Thank you.